Something really big is happening on the planet right now, and nobody is talking about it. But I want you to know what it is. And that is the fact that you are alive at a time when the ages turn. You were born in the age of Pisces. You now exist in the age of Aquarius. This is a paradigm shift on every level. And I want to do a video explaining what that means, what exactly the age of Aquarius means, how that's different from the sign of Aquarius, and just kind of what it means to be alive right now. Now, I just did a series called How to Build a Bridge to the Age of Aquarius, where I talk about really what we can be doing right now during this transition period when the energies are so intense and when everything is changing, to maximize how we get to the other side and how we co-create a new reality, a new earth. But I've got a lot of questions which are very good questions about, what is the age of Aquarius? I'm an Aquarius sun sign. What does that mean for me? So I want to just break that down. First of all, if you are Aquarius, meaning like your sun is in Aquarius, that really has nothing to do with being alive during the age of Aquarius. That's a natal sign. That's your sun sign. Now, Aquarius, someone who is Aquarius, they have certain attributes, certain characteristics. Aquarius is all about community. Aquarius is a strong individual. Aquarius is oftentimes a rebel or an outlaw, or they're like a visionary thinker that sees things for what they can be, not for what they are. Aquarius, it has a cold side to it. It can be kind of loner energy. As much as it's all about community, there's a strong individual that's bringing community together that isn't going to be shaken. So all of those are energies that the age of Aquarius is very much about. Aquarius is also ruled by the planet Uranus. Uranus is wake up, shake up energy. It's freedom from the known. It's revolution. So those characteristics can very much be present in an Aquarian individual who has a sun sign Aquarius, but those are the things that are going to be more pronounced and more prominent in the age of Aquarius. What is an age? What am I talking about? So there's this thing called the precession of the equinoxes, and it has to do with where the position of the rising sun is on the day of the spring equinox. This is the equinox that happens in March in the Western Hemisphere. That's the fall equinox if you're in the other hemisphere. So on that day, there is a rising in a certain constellation. And for the last 2,000 years or so, that rising has happened in the sign of Pisces. Very slowly, it starts to turn over time, and it starts to gravitate toward the sign that's directly behind it, because unlike the zodiac wheel, which goes from Aries to Taurus to Gemini, etc., the astrological ages go backward. So we went from Aries to Pisces, now we're going into Aquarius. There's a slight tilt in the Earth's axis, and because of this tilt, we're constantly changing where this rising position happens on the spring equinox. And it's a very gradual shift, but we are now in the early stages of this rising happening, or maybe we're in the late stages of it happening. We're in the early stages of it happening in Aquarius, and maybe we're in the late stages of it happening in Pisces. That's a debate that I'm going to get into in a minute. But what happens when this starts to change, when this spring equinox energy starts to shift from one sign into another, everything on the planet starts to change right along with it. That's how we have relationships. That's how we experience religion or our understanding of the divine. That's how we construct societies, how economies are formed. How we receive knowledge, how we retain knowledge. A lot of times even environmentally, or in the way that we use the environment to construct our cities and our dwellings and cultivate resources from. All of that changes. So this is why right now, as we are alive at the turning of the ages, everything that you're used to, everything that has been like this old touchstone and these guardrails, that's all going away. Like the touchstones are gone, the guardrails are getting taken off, and people are like, what the heck is going on? And it was said about these pressure cooker times that we live in, when things were going to change so fast and so rapidly, that 1/3 of humanity would die, 1/3 of humanity would go mad, and 1/3 of humanity would wake up, and they would be the light that guided us to the new age. And if you are watching this video, you are in the 1/3 that is the light, and your light is needed right now because everything is changing so fast. This is time-coded evolution. Time-coded evolution, the whole point of time as a concept is so we on this planet can evolve and grow in certain ways. There's an ecological evolution, there's a humanitarian and social evolution. This is all tied to the precision of the equinoxes. When we enter into a new age, the properties associated, the archetypes associated, the energies associated with that sign of the age that we're in, that becomes the dominant energy on the planet. The best example I can give you of this that I think most of you will relate to is the Age of Pisces. About 2,000 years ago, many of you know about a person named Jesus who was born. Jesus said, "I will make you fishers of men." The sign of Pisces is two fish, one swimming upstream, one swimming downstream. Pisces is all about the divine. Pisces is all about spirituality. That is where religion came from, because Pisces is also all about institutions, and there can be power games, there can be control and manipulation with Pisces. So this is where religion came from. The Age of Pisces was supposed to be a beautiful age of us having a deep expression and a deep understanding of our divinity and our relationship with the divine. And that got polluted real quickly, very shortly after Jesus's message was brought here, by people that wanted to maintain power and wanted to control. And that's where, religion as we know it today came from. Now, I'm not saying religion is bad. I'm not saying that if you're religious, that you're doing something wrong. You're certainly not. Religion in a lot of ways has been good. There are a lot of really great religious people, and they'll continue to, follow what is good and right for them, and I 100% support that. But the energies on this planet are changing now, just like they were changing 2,000 years ago. And if you understand anything about history 2,000 years ago, you understand that we were coming out of a period where there was a lot of war, there was a lot of aggression, there was a lot of conquering, there was a lot of hero narrative and hero worship. That's all Aries. We were coming out of the age of Aries. See, the real prophecy in the Bible was, this whole prophecy of a savior will come. That was foretelling the age of Pisces. That's what that was all about. So the age of aggression, the age of, hyper heroism and conquering, that ended, and something much more subtle and something much more internal came when the Age of Pisces was brought. And every age has an avatar. Yogi Bhajan, my teacher, or the master of Kundalini Yoga, who my teacher quotes all the time, he is famous for saying that every age has a sage, and in the Age of Aquarius, in the Age of Pisces, that sage was Jesus. Well, in the Age of Aquarius, who is that sage? I believe that sage is this archetype, this visual representation of what Aquarius is, and that is the water bearer. And I believe that the water bearer is you. You see, of all the signs in the zodiac, most of them are animals of some sort. You have the scales of Libra. You do have the twins of Gemini, so those are people. You got the maiden of Virgo. But with Aquarius, that's where you have an archetype of an actual human. And of course, the maiden is a human. The twins of Gemini, they're humans. But we're not in those ages. We're now in the Age of Aquarius, and so we have an archetype of a person holding a water carrier. And what's in the water carrier? Well, it's cosmic plasma. It's this divine knowledge that's coming to us. It's inspiration that's coming from the cosmos, coming from the divine, and coming through us. And if this all sounds like stardust to you, just look at your iPhone, because that's plasma. These innovations, these technologies, your iPhone, the MacBook, anything that has happened in the last several hundred years technologically, that's all plasma from the divine that was downloaded into somebody who was a scientist, an inventor, or whatever, and they were able to take that knowledge and they were able to do something with it to create something real and tangible. And that's Aquarian energy. And that leads me to my last point about the turning of the ages, which is you don't just flip a switch and it's like one day we're in Pisces and the next day we're in Aquarius. It's a gradual dawning. This is where the song The Dawning of the Age of Aquarius comes from. It's a gradual setting in of an energy, and it's a gradual letting go of the old energy. And we're alive at a time when we are hospicing the end of one age, the age of Pisces, and we are welcoming in and indeed needing to build a bridge to the next age, and that is the age of Aquarius. Now, this takes a while. A lot of times it can take several hundred years for the consciousness to fully set in. So what does this mean in terms of timelines? So there are some people, well-researched scholars on this topic, and I encourage you to read as much as you can about this, who believe that the Age of Aquarius started sometime in the 1700s. And a lot of the reasons why they think that is you had a lot of advances in technology and very rapid advancements in things like electricity and things like the railroads in the 1800s, and that's all very Aquarian energy. There are others who believe that the Age of Aquarius isn't going to happen until the 2100s, and all of those thought patterns, whether you believe it was the 1700s, whether you think it's now, like I happen to think, or whether you think it's in the future, there's an agreement that we're in a transition, that the energy is shifting and is changing, and that Pisces, that while it's still here, it is dying out, and Aquarius is becoming more. The reason that I think we're in the age of Aquarius right now is I'm looking at how intense things are. I'm looking at how crazy people are getting, and I'm looking at how much change is happening. And I'm also looking at the end of the Mayan calendar, which happened on December 21st, 2012. That was the end of one timeline. We also recently had the ending of Kali Yuga. That was the spring equinox of this past year. That was another timeline. Well, this is yet another timeline that is ending. The age of Pisces going into the age of Aquarius. And if you understand what the ending of Kali Yuga means, if you understand what the ending of the Mayan calendar means, they all basically mean the same thing as what the dawning of the age of Aquarius means. So I believe that we're alive during a time of great transition. I believe this is a really exciting time to be alive, and I believe that what we do right now, what you do, what I do, what we co-create in the world, that's going to set the energy for the next 2,000 years. So we have a responsibility. If you are alive at the turning of the ages, you picked a special incarnation. You picked a special time to be alive, and you got to do the most with it. You cannot be the 1/3 who dies. You cannot be the 1/3 who goes mad. You must be the 1/3 who wakes up and sees the light, and then you have to light the path for others. My teacher, Tej, says that the Aquarian age is going to really start to set in by about 2035, 2036. I hope and believe that she's right. I started doing Kundalini Yoga back in 2013, and people were talking about the age of Aquarius and how things were going to get crazy in 2020, and then they were going to really ramp up and get even crazier in 2025. This is what I heard for years, not knowing anything that would transpire, not knowing any of the world events, not knowing any of the political leaders or any of the things that were going to be happening. This is back in 2013, 2014 that I'm listening to all of this. And you can just think back to what has happened. 2020 was very transformative. 2025 is a whole other level for different reasons. And we were told that we would be in the thick of it in 2025 and 2026. The astrology points to that as well. All of these outer planets, changing signs, that's part of this, but it's all interrelated. All of these different schools of thought, they're all pointing us to there's something new happening on the planet. There's a new direction that humanity is going in, and it's moving away from the power over paradigm, domination submission paradigm of the Piscean era, and it's going into the heart-centered age of Aquarius. This is an age that promises that we can really have amazing co-creative communities, that we can live in harmony with each other, that we can choose to understand what higher love is and choose to relate from that fifth dimensional higher love. Technology is going to be a big part of it. The life that we live today, the way that we live our life today, and the way we will be living our life in the next 100, 200 plus years, it's going to change so much. You're not even going to recognize life 100 years from now versus today, and technology is going to be a big part of that, and that's very Aquarian. Aquarius is technology. Now, I encourage you to go watch my How to Build a Bridge to the Age of Aquarius series, because I break this down a whole lot more about some of the things I think we need to be really mindful of in technology, and how we use technology is one of the biggest ones. But the big message I want to give is that You are alive for a reason right now, and you have to be excited about being alive. Trance yourself into that. I know it's tough. Believe me, I have my days where I'm like, not that into this timeline, but I incarnated here for a reason. You incarnated here for a reason, and we incarnated at this time and space for a reason. So let's do this Aquarius age thing. Let's build a bridge to the Age of Aquarius. If you have questions about what the Age of Aquarius is, about kind of what this means, drop them. And I just want to know what it is that you are doing to embody the ethos of the Aquarian age. Let's have a dialogue. Let's comment. Let's share, care, and include, because that is the Age of Aquarius. Thank you so much for watching. Sat Nam.